Pleasant good morning to you. I am Shikutu Michael, visual arts student teacher. In this vlog, I want to show you how I created one of the teaching aids or teaching materials that I use during my team teaching cycle. It's a value scale along with the shading technique card. Materials that you can follow along with would include the Bristol board or any really good quality drawing paper. All right, you will be using a collection of pencils. Okay, you can grab a pack like this. These are really great. They have H pencils as well as B pencils, and most obviously that combination of your HB pencils. You will most obviously need a ruler because we want to keep it neat and tidy. Um, some of you might want to have a sharpener nearby, although I don't recommend this because, of course, we were taught at the art school, sharpeners have a tendency to deplete the lifespan of your pencils over a period of time. What I do recommend, however, would be the utility knife. Of course, health and safety first. These are usually very sharp, and you want to be careful with this. If you're not accustomed to it, if you need some assistance with it, make sure there's someone around who can demonstrate proper usage. Now, in concluding of this part of the video, I want to encourage you to grab a marker so that we can polish everything nicely when we're finished in terms of outlines as well as labeling. Let's get into this. First of all, I am going to start off by measuring my paper. It is going to be 4 inches by 10 inches. The next clip that you're going to see is either the paper already measured out or maybe cut out. I'm here using an H pencil. For the most parts, whenever I start most of my artwork, especially drawings or paintings, I tend to go with the H pencil. You'll notice the camera can't really pick up all of it, but if you look here, you'll notice some really, really thin lines. All right. H pencil works really nicely when you want guiding lines. Okay, so this here is my 4 by 10 rectangle. I've divided them into 8 equal sections. Each section is going to give us each section is equal to 1¼ inch in width. And once I'm finished there, I'm going to ensure that I have sufficient space for the labels or a bit of a border where I can write the labels and the names of the various sections. And then I'll go ahead with the cutting. Okay, we're back and I want to just inform you about something before I move forward. I'm about to cut out my rectangle. All right, not necessarily cut out. Remember I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm using the utility knife. Now, if you're more comfortable with the scissors, you can go right on ahead and just cut out this rectangle as it is. On the other hand, as an art teacher, as an art student, I use the utility knife a lot. So I'm really comfortable with that. So I am going to use my metallic ruler as well with the utility knife. And we're going to get the rectangle ready for you. Welcome back. We've drawn our rectangle. We've divided it into 8 various squares. We've cut it out because it's easier to deal with a piece of paper as opposed to the whole large section. So what we're about to do at this time is with our pencil, in this case, my HB pencil, we're supposed to be moving from light to dark. You're shading from light to dark. Some persons may prefer to do the opposite and shade from dark to light. I've got a very peculiar preference. I like to start in the middle without the midtones. In that case, if you like, you can label your squares. Obviously, you've got 8 of them. You label them with numbers from 1 to 8. So with that, it means that I would be starting off with either number 4 or number 5, depending on if I want to start with my normal pressure and then I decrease my pressure to get lighter as I move closer to the left of my scale. Probably you're right. Or if I go to number 5 and I darken each square, moving closer to my left, you're right. Did I say that correctly? Okay. Anyway, so we would be starting from the middle. I would be starting from the middle. If you prefer to start from light to dark, that's fine. If you want to go from dark to light, that's also fine. I start from the mid-tones. This is our second task where we'll be doing a collection of shading techniques. The rectangle that you're looking at is the same size as the previous teaching aid, which was our value scale, with our tints, shades moving from light to dark or dark to light, depending on how you look at it. This one here, as you notice, I've drawn 6 circles in pencil. And what I'm going to do for you at this time is to demonstrate 6 different drawing techniques. The 6 that I'm hoping to use today are hatching, cross hatching, stippling, the normal shading in which we did for our value scale, and then a bit of scribbling. There should have been another, but we eliminated that one due to the nature of time and space on this device. All right? Okay, so let's jump straight into it. You'll notice here I've got the 6 circles. They're all waiting. They're ready. And we're going to demonstrate these techniques using pencils once again. We're going to start with hatching first. And we're starting off here with a 2H pencil, right? And we're there. Okay, so in this first section, or this box, this circle, okay, I am going to demonstrate how to get your hatching done. Now, so hatching uses parallel lines going in the same direction. Whether it is from left to right or right to left, it's known as hatching. The closer the lines are to each other, the darker the value becomes. This technique is great for quick shading and adding light texture. All right, so let us pretend that our source of light is coming from this direction here. It means that the majority of these guys within this vicinity are going to get darker as we go. Okay? Now, I'm assuming that you're seeing these really light twitch lines. Alrighty. So the lines that we're going to use at this point in time. It's hatching, not cross hatching. So the lines are going to go in one direction. And so at first, they're going to sort of take that. Right, so now we're going to be moving on to our second technique. This would be cross hatching. You'll notice that the very first circle, hatching, simply consists of lines going in one direction. Although they're curved, it's still deemed as hatching. So cross hatching is where we're going to have our lines going into 2 different directions. All right, so I've placed my highlight, assuming that the light source is from that direction. Once again, it would imply that our shadows will be in this direction. So the lines around here will be a whole lot darker, okay, to give us that realistic look. So now, in terms of cross hatching, we'll start off with the straight lines again. This is going to be my line in the center. And here we go. So these lines, Iris, more. You notice all of these going in one direction, all right? So once we're finished with this direction, we'll go in the opposite direction. The same thing that we did where we're using a variety of tones will also work, okay? We still want to maintain a very realistic appearance. All right, now this can be accomplished. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention to you, this here is a grade B pencil. All right, so for me at this point in time, what's going to be happening is that I have to regulate my pressure. You'll notice that my lines are getting a little darker as they get closer to the bottom of my circle. And of course, I am going to vary in terms of the lengths of the lines. All right, so the lines in the opposite direction. This is our halfway mark once again, but we're going to maintain the same consistency. Um, We've got that. Okay. So this sort of creates a checkered appearance. All right, making our circle pop or appear a bit more realistic. All right. So again, you can either go these over with an H pencil, the lighter lines, or just decrease the pressure that you would have applied earlier to get a lighter set of lines. Now, as you get closer to what should be our light source, the lines are lighter, the lines are shorter. All right, and that is it pretty much for our second technique. Let's move on to the third. All right, so we're on to our third circle at this time. Stippling, also known as pointillism. It's literally where you apply your dots. So you'll notice me every time putting that little circle just to indicate our source of light. That's correct. Which would then imply that the shadows begin from this line to the very bottom. All right, so here we go. And it is a lot of dots, okay? But the same concept applies where the closer to the light source we are, the lighter the dots are in terms of quantity as well as the pressure. What I would recommend for you to do, in case you decided to do like me with a B grade pencil, you might want to get an eraser nearby just to remove any visible lines, okay? And this is what we are going to do to the very end. So I am going to start off with my B pencil for the entire surface area, and then I'll change the grade to maybe a 3B or a 4B as we get closer to the bottom. I might even shorten this video and do this off screen for you. But that's all that you're going to be doing throughout. I am getting a darker pencil. I've got my 4B pencil here. You might not be able to see the grade properly. My apologies. It's an old pencil. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So you want a really smooth transition with this one. Okay. So we had observed that this particular drawing technique is the most time consuming, but it's one of the most beautiful. This is what we look like so far. All right, there we are so far, and we can continue now. Usually with a piece like this, the dots will go all the way around in terms of the contour lines, the lines on the very edge of your object or your item, the material that you are drawing. All right, so let's go a bit darker again here. I believe I'm gonna go with the 6B pencil. Again, you do not specifically have to do it like me. Um, there we go, 6B. In terms of changing the pencils, that is not required. It all depends on what you're drawing. It depends on what finish you might be looking for. Okay. Okay. I'll bring it up a little closer. So you might not get to, the camera might not capture all of it, but this is what we have so far. Alrighty. So we can make our way over to our fourth technique, which is going to be shading. Now you've seen the shading before in terms of our value scale. It's the same technique we're going to use. Okay, so we're on to our fifth technique known as scribbling. We're going to start off with an H pencil. All right, once again. And yep, there we go. Light source and the implied shadows. Okay, just as the name suggests, it's a lot of curls. It's not anything too difficult. Think of soft curly hair. All right, that's our first layer, and we do it once again, just a bit more pressure once you get closer to the lines, right? And for this one, once again, you don't necessarily have to change the pencil, the grid. However, just to get things along in a particular manner, we are going to do just that, okay? So you've seen me with my B pencil, reintroducing the B pencil again, right? Because we want it a little darker, right? We want to give it a very realistic finish. Value helps us make things more three-dimensional in appearance. It gives you that polished finish. So in this case here, the lighter something is, the further it might be away. The darker it may be, closer it is. Now there is something that I did not mention as yet, but it's once you're capturing your shadows, the closer the shadow is to the item, the darker it is as well. Just like the further down we go, the further down the line we go to the edges of our piece, the darker. That's because you're trying to capture the shadows. All right. So we're pretty much finished here with this one. If you want, only if you want to, if you feel the need to, you can go back in there again with some of your another H pencil and capture some of the lighter, capture some of those lighter lines with a very light pressure. And that's it for our techniques. All right, let's just recap really quickly. We would have done hatching, cross hatching, followed by stippling or pointillism, shading, and then we concluded with our scribbling. Okay, I want to thank you so much for your time and being here with us. Have a wonderful day.